Yes. Yeah.
But like the comparison, like with me and some of the other guys.
So that'd be something neat to see, the Harris Centers.
The Pirates playing in Williams.
All right, welcome to the Non-Runner Sports Podcast, episode 29, the home of sports talk for everyone. Now, if you're watching this, you might not see that Jason's looking a little different today. Actually, we got John with us. You might remember him from last episode with the bobbleheads. How you doing today, John?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Another wonderful day in the greatest country in the world.
That it is. So, to get this off here, last week for the first period here, 20 years ago. Last week was 9/11, 20 years. In fact, it's been 20 years. That's
insane.
Yeah, where some people, even my kids, ask what happened that day. I mean, my kids are going to be 10 this year. I mean, they weren't, and the fact that we were here to actually see it and witness the terrible acts of what it was. It's just mind blowing. And honestly, when I'm trying to explain it to my kids, it's hard. It's hard to actually explain everything that happened because a lot of things happened that day. Mm-hmm. And the sports world, of course, took the backseat that it did, which it should have, and rightfully so that it did. But also, I think sports, when it came back, started to heal 9/11. Start to bring people together, start to bring fans of all sorts, whether you are rivals or not. I mean, when you can see Yankee fans and Mets fans join together,
right?
That's something big.
I mean, the first game back, I think that's what kind of brought it all together. I was thinking about it. I mean, I think about it about every year with 9/11. I always think back to where I was, how that day was, how one day when I have kids, I'll explain to them what it means to our country. But that first game back with the Mets and the Braves at Shea, the Piazza home run, it's just,
yeah,
you can't. It was storybook.
And didn't President Bush throw out the first pitch that game? I think it was that game.
Threw out arguably the greatest first pitch ever.
That was a strike, basically right down the middle. Perfect strike for it, from what I heard. From actually not what I heard, from what I watched.
It was it was perfect.
Yeah, and actually, what I was actually watching. There's a website that I found that stated him throwing that first pitch. They said in this article said that started the healing process because of him throwing that perfect pitch. And I mean, sports basically, in my opinion, heals anything because it's a group of people coming together as a team. Mm-hmm. And then, basically at the end of every game, you could hate each other. Next thing you know, you're going for a drink after, with one of the opponents right after the game. It's one of those types of things. Yeah. And when they said he threw out that first pitch, and that started the healing, that started the actual, here we go.
It was the first time in sports, which, I mean, I was 9 years old at the time, but it was the first time in sports that I remember you looked at it as not this team versus that team. We were all one team. Mm-hmm. It was a weird kind of transition. It was, I mean, I was looking back at photos the other day. You had the Giants and the Cowboys at midfield hugging. You had, like you said, you had the Yankees and the Mets embracing one another. I mean, I don't know if you remember, the World Series that year was really odd too, in the sense of, it was competitive. It's arguably, I mean, it was the first World Series I remember. It's my favorite, but it was like you really wasn't rooting for one team. You just liked seeing the world continue to keep pushing forward.
Yep. And it just, Yeah, if it just, I mean, I was 18 when everything happened.
Mm.
I mean, I was 18. It just, but yeah, the sports, and that's, of course, as expected, all security for every sports venue went up and all that just because of everything. But when more and more sports actually started rolling, like football started to go, hockey started to go, you can feel the mending process. Because there were actually 2 scouts for LA. I think it was on the New York flight that hit one of the buildings. There were 2 scouts from the Los Angeles Kings.
Wow.
So, and then to actually see, more and more of the sports come together and everything start to come, with that. It's just for some reason, sports just heals everything. I don't know what it is.
I seen one earlier just because I had pulled up some videos on YouTube. Do you remember Sosa hitting the home run and carrying the American flag around the bases?
Vaguely. I want to say yes, but I think I vaguely remember that. Like I said, it's been 20 years. It's been, trying to remember what happened 20 years ago. I'm still trying to remember what happened weeks ago.
Yeah, I watched that earlier, and I was like, that's one of those moments, though, when you hear sports moments after 9/11 that you don't hear about often, but to me, it kind of, I don't know, it had some symbolism to it. After watching it, I watched it a couple times, and I was like, it didn't kind of get, to me, it didn't get the credit it was due in that moment.
I think a lot of things didn't get the credit it was due in those types of moments when sports figures of, well, let's say Sosa, when he did that, or just even football, hockey, when they did their when they did their tributes, right. A lot of it did not get that credit. I agree. That's
well, and even now today, that's what I've been up and down on it. I thought with 9/11 hitting the 20-year mark, I felt like sports could have done more. And it kind of kicks back to my number one hobby of bobbleheads. I was having this discussion with some guys about if on 9/11, if not the day of 9/11, around the time of 9/11, why didn't a few teams, even in the New York area, produce some bobbleheads with some history to it, to where, say they have a kid that's 10 years old that comes to the game and they're like, what does this bobblehead stand for? I didn't understand why more teams didn't do that.
Well, even just the bobblehead, just something. Something to commemorate that day. Yeah. Just as a tribute to everybody and everything that happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sports in general, they knew what to do almost. Like the sports of just, between the football, baseball, and hockey, they knew what they needed to do to let everything heal, let everything go. Because yourself, some sports figures like, well, I'm going to lose this much money if I don't start playing, or I'm da-da-da-da-da-da.
I don't think today's sports would have – I think the personalities in sports today couldn't handle what happened 20 years ago.
Well, look,
I feel like the guys, the athletes back then, I say back then, 20 years ago, they just knew how to pick that up and go with it.
Yeah, they knew what to do.
Yeah, the guys today, I don't know if they could do the same.
No, because I forget what team it was where players were complaining because of the shortened season last year. Was it a shortened season? Yeah, it was a shortened season last year. That some of the players were complaining that they weren't getting paid, where some of the other players were like, "Quiet, you're getting paid yet? Just there's worse things happening." Mm-hmm. Where some of the players actually knew, "Hey, okay, cool, I'm still playing, I'm still good." Whereas others were more worried about the money. Where, like you just said, players back then, they knew how to pick that up. They knew what the responsibility they had to do to, hey, there's more important things going on. What do you guys need? Basically is what it was for that aspect.
Right. And every sport, I think, at that time hit it out of the park.
Yeah, they did.
They really did.
I mean, funny part is though, when everything happened, I was actually at home. I was actually between semesters in college, and I was laying on my couch. I was laying on the couch watching Sports Center. Oddly enough, just watching sports. Yeah. And I remember getting the phone call from my mom saying, "Hey, turn the news on." And I'm like, "I do have it on." She's like, "No, the real neuse."
Real news.
Okay. Well, sports, that's all I watched. That's all I've always had on TV. That's all because growing up, I started playing hockey, I think, when I was 14. So for me, that's all I knew was sports and all that. I played Little League. I played baseball. I played a season of football. Then I just found hockey.
Still to this day, that's all I watch.
And well, I don't put news on in my house. It's too depressing. So I just rather watch sports this way. It's all, it's sports.
Yep.
But after watching all that, it's like, oh.
I'm curious to see how it will look in, I don't know. It's been 20 years. I want to see how it'll look in 5 more years, and then 10 more years after that. I just want to see how it changes, how people's perspective changes. I hope that we don't allow it to escape, in the sense of, like you were stating, your kids are 10. Like, I hope that when they're 18 years old, they understand what 9/11 was and what it means. I don't want to see it ever escape our history.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It is history. It is part of this nation's culture now. It's not something that's never going to go away. And the fact that kids have to learn it in school to know what that day represents.
Right.
And for us, we saw it. We were on, we saw it on TV and that. And just, even 18 and, young and dumb yet, you kind of knew what was going on. And the fact that how everybody pulled together, you didn't have to ask questions. You were just, okay, what do you need? Because I was watching a documentary the other day on it, and they said the boats to get people off the island, they just were coming. They just put a broadcast out. Anybody with a boat. And they said all you saw was a fleet of boats. That's all you saw. It didn't matter if there was like a small boat, a big boat, just a fleet coming to the island to get people off. And that's all they did was just put out a broadcast, and all of a sudden everybody came. Now, because they shut all the bridges off, they just shut all the bridges down. So you got to get, and the fact that random strangers just saying, let's go. And the same thing with sports. It just brings everybody together,
I think we can both agree that at that time, sports played a pivotal role in the healing process of the nation.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, well, like we just said, with Bush throwing out that first pitch, that actually was an actual pitch, and not just like it's over his head or wide or something. That started everything. That started that process of let's get this going. Let's try to move forward and heal. Thank God for sports.
Amen to that.
It's just thank God for that. So yeah, 20 years. That's just crazy in how far it's been. So on that note, that is the end of the. Oh, sorry, Jeff. You have more?
I'm good.
Yeah, I just too much cut you off there.
Oh no, you're good, man.
All right, man. So on that note, that'd be the end of the first period. Right back after a short break.